Hello and welcome to another SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So, in this episode, I'll be discussing the 2006 crime drama movie Miami Vice, as directed by Michael Mann. So, this movie is actually an adaptation of the TV series, which of the same name, which ran for 5 seasons in total from 1984 through 1990. And starred Don Johnson and Philip Michael Thomas as two Miami-Dade undercover police officers, or detectives, if you like, Detective James Sonny Crockett and Detective Ricardo Tubbs, or Rico Tubbs, respectively, usually kind of thwarting the efforts of the latest drug crime lord or prostitution racket. The series was quite a mixed bag of episodes, usually involving Crockett and Tubbs pretending to be drug dealers, drug smugglers, or some other kind of drug-related criminal type, in order to infiltrate the latest crime organisation, usually culminating in a grand shootout which saw the crime lord's demise. Episodes ranged from dark, hard-cutting themes to light comedic moments, and this varied greatly from season to season. Most of the time, it did kind of just feel like they were extended Phil Collins music videos. There was also episodes which kind of bordered on the surreal, including one involving a team of would-be scientists trying to bring a frozen body back from the dead. Yep, they had that too. Anywho, this isn't a review of the series, however the show is actually the reason why I actually chose to watch this movie this time around. I've just finished watching all 5 seasons of the show and was kind of really keen to re-watch the movie just to kind of finish that whole journey off. Now, I say re-watch, I have actually watched the movie before, but if I'm honest, it didn't resonate and I didn't get it at all. I thought it was long, drawn out and fairly incoherent. But I hadn't watched the TV series before this, and I had no real kind of understanding of what the show was about. So I thought I'd give it a go again, another shot, and hopefully with a better understanding and a different point of view. And so here we are. The film is actually directed by Michael Mann, as I said, who indeed produced the original TV series, but it is actually an adaptation of the series and not a continuation. There is no canon to the series at all. So this kind of serves as a reboot movie of sorts, involving different actors to those in the TV series and opting to completely distance itself from the series, bar the main characters' names and personas, to be fair. There are no cameos from any of the original TV series cast, from what I could see, no theme song from the series at all. It is, for all intents and purposes, completely standalone. So, the movie starts with the Miami Vice team trying to bring down a prostitution racket, but then it quickly takes a darker turn when one of their informants rings to let them know that a drug deal that he was helping in to sting with the FBI was going bad after a mole tipped off the dealers to the FBI's involvement. This all ends in tragedy, but results in Crockett and Tubbs, as played in the movie by Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx, respectively, going undercover as drug smugglers in order to further infiltrate the syndicates involved in the bus, basically, in an attempt to root out the true source of the drugs and identify the players involved. The journey takes them from the original target, Jose Hierro, apologies for the names, as played by John Ortiz, who was initially thought to be the head of the drug cartel, to the Supremo Colombian crime drug lord, Archangel de Jesus Montoya, as played by Luis Tosar. Crockett also starts to fall for a member of the drug cartel, Isabella, as played by Gong Li, who looks after the organisation's business matters, making really their undercover operation ever the more complicated and leading to a very, very kind of tense finale. So, interestingly, even though the movie opts to distance itself from the TV show, it isn't an origin story reboot. The film doesn't necessarily require to have any prior knowledge of the TV series, as previously detailed. Apart from the characters, there are no links to it, but the characters were an important part of the show, and the movie does expect you to actually know who the characters are from the get-go. It does nothing to develop any of these of the existing characters for the more casual viewer, like I was initially. No backstory, no premise, no motivation, and I think that's where the film failed in the first instance for me. The movie jumps straight into the plot and doesn't make it instantly clear who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. During the beginning sequences, there's literally a lot going on and a lot of information being thrown at the viewer, which again, I felt made it difficult to follow if you didn't instinctively know what the format of the TV show was. Because it fires a lot at you, you don't get really the chance to commit to a moment in this respect. And I feel that some of the feeling and the suspense being portrayed on screen was kind of lost because of this. The movie is actually quite stylish in its execution and very thematic of the series, I would admit, but with a much more contemporary feel. You know, let's not forget that the TV series was made at the height of 80s fashion and music. It has a look and tone much more akin to the darker episodes of the series and takes a more grittier, hardcore approach to its storytelling, with a number of more adult themes included in. I also thought it had a great take on the two main characters, Crockett and Tubbs, and I thought that Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx actually did a fantastic job of bringing these characters to the big screen. However, this was from an individual perspective. The film did fail, for me, to kind of reinforce the bond between these two characters, which was such a big part of the series. They just didn't seem to have the same chemistry. Their relationship didn't seem as sincere or as believable, and it really hinders you getting invested in them as a partnership. In this respect, I believe that some form of backstory, introduction, would have been beneficial here, really, to the overall flow of the movie, and would have helped the audience connect in a more relatable way. Especially, like I was, those that knew nothing of Crockett and Tubbs. Unfortunately, I also found that the supporting characters, who were also brought from the TV series within the Miami Vice Department, basically felt more surplus than they should have been. These were even less padded out, and if I'm not mistaken, not all were actually named directly in the film. You had a couple of glimpses of what these characters were about and what their roles were in the undercover operations, but nothing of any significance. They could have been just anybody, for what it was worth, and really felt like that they were simply placed into the movie to justify its name. And again, this really hinders any kind of feeling or investment into them from a viewer's perspective. The film is very aesthetically pleasing, with some really stunning cinematographic shots and sequences. Quite a lot of the scenes involving speedboats and car chases are very reminiscent of the style of cinematography used in the show, which was a real nice touch in my opinion. And it did make it feel like I was indeed watching Miami Vice, rather than just another generic undercover crime fighting movie. Music also features quite prominently in the movie, at least kind of during the first half, I would say. Again, being more of a contemporary take on the series, which was almost a showcase of the music of the 80s in its own right. As I kind of touched on earlier, some episodes certainly felt more like a music video than a crime show. And the themes provided by composer John Murphy, again, give it a very familiar feel and work very well with the cinematographic feel of the movie overall. Although it is interesting that the composer of the theme for the original series, Jan Hammer, was not invited to return. The end credits, at least on the version of the film I watched, does feature a cover of the Phil Collins track In the Air Tonight, covered by Nonpoint, which was a song repeatedly used with the tones and the song, kind of throughout the series, which I thought was another nice touch. But I think it would have been nice to have the Phil Collins original. It would have been more powerful. As a movie, on its own accord, I still felt like it was too long and drawn out for what it really was. Essentially giving us the same plot as a 45-minute episode in just over 2 hours, with no real new value added. But it had a decent enough plot and enough wisecracking moments to kind of keep it fresh and be hooked to the end. It did have some very, very shaky camera style, almost done in the first person, trying to make you feel as though you were there. Sometimes it worked. However, most of the time, it made it more awkward to kind of capture everything that was going on, given that there was a lot to be seen. So overall, I think, in my opinion of the movie, it did change for the better upon watching it for the second time. I'm not going to lie. After watching Crockett and Tubbs perform the same sting operation goodness knows how many times, it was a lot clearer as to know what was happening this time around. I am not saying that you need to have watched the series to enjoy the movie. I'm just saying I did. It did have some stunning cinematography and a fairly familiar theme to the series, which, on this understanding, did make me appreciate and follow it more. And it leaves enough unfinished business for a sequel, which of course has not yet transpired. It's a movie that felt like Miami Vice, but then didn't really offer anything further. What it does go to show is that I am always willing to give a film a second chance. I also think sometimes appreciation for a film also very much depends on your frame of mind at the time. So that brings me to the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, more trailer reactions, and more movie-related gaming episodes and other movie-related things. But yes, we've loved having you. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do join again. But most of all, yes, thank you very much and goodbye.